All right, so here's the little splash screen that I forgot to put up in the first two installments. There it is. If you want to quit drinking and start creating, then here is something to try. Home audio production, whether it is recording songs with vocals and lyrics and instruments, or it could just be doing something like sound collage, something a bit more passive, sound editing. There's all kinds of things you can do creatively as a hobby, as a pastime, as an activity, as a form of art therapy. If you don't know about art therapy, look into it. Okay? That's what this channel is really. That's why I started it in the first place. And if you need help with that, my contact info is in the channel description. Now, that out of the way, I'm going to I'm not going to play through this thing all the way. Just going to play through the first, minute or so, just to, I want you to hear how it's sitting now. I haven't altered it or changed it in any way since I finished part 2. And we're going to go ahead and do some preliminary leveling and EQ. And I think I'm going to keep the scope of this third installment to just that, because I do want to shorten the length of some of these, at least. All right, so without any further ado, here we go. Again, this song is called Passing Through. And let me just, there, okay. Okay, so I lied. Over 2 minutes, but yeah, I thought I'd get through the first verse and refrain. If you hear that in the background, that's Mr. Hamster on his running wheel. I guess that's his name, Mr. Hamster. I keep calling him Mr. Hamster. Mr. Hamster. He's certainly a very well-behaved little fellow. He's a gentleman for a little guy. He takes food out of my hand. He's never once even nibbled my finger. Anyway, so this if you're new to this, you might think, well, this sounds pretty good. And in a way it does, EQing, leveling and EQing is, after tracking, which is recording the parts. Mixing is when you hear about people, you hear a lot about mixing this, mixing that, mixing tips and tricks, mixing do's and don'ts. Okay, there's this idea that most of the mixing should happen in the arrangement and in the tracking. And what that means is when you're doing arrangement, that is selection of instruments and parts, you should be already thinking in terms of, you should be thinking down the line in terms of EQ. And what that means is that, for example, this is going to have, after I do this part, I'm gonna do a bass guitar track, and obviously, that being a bass guitar, it's going to sit in the bass frequencies. That's where it needs to have its main position, place in the mix in the bass frequencies. Now it has other. It does occupy the full frequency spectrum to some extent, but it's mainly in the bass frequencies, right? The electric guitar, that's mainly like a mid-range thing, okay? Male vocals, like depending on the voice, but it'll be like, mid-range to high mid-range. If it's a female voice, it's getting more up into the trebles. And so like different parts, different instruments will sort of like mainly occupy different parts of the frequency spectrum. And so EQing is sort of carving out places for the different parts in the frequency spectrum, dialing down frequencies where they don't need to be so prominent, and emphasizing frequencies where they should be prominent. And what this does is it provides clarity and distinction, right? Even if you're, sometimes especially, but, okay, so another way that you do this is with panning left and right, stereo mixing. I don't do that. 99% of my mixes, everything is not panned. It's up the middle, 12 o'clock. See here, it's on the vocal track right now, but this is the volume fader right here, and here's the pan knob, and it's at 12 o'clock. C for center. Everything is, click on the guitar, click on the synth, click on the drums. Everything is center. Now, in the drum plug-in, there is a little bit of panning. Okay, these LR, these are all pan knobs. Okay, and so I can adjust the panning on the kick. The kick is always down the middle. You can see the snare. But the snare might be panned a little bit to the left or right. The hi-hat a little bit to the left or right. The toms, I haven't done toms yet, but I'll pan the toms left and right a little bit, just to give the drums some space. But for me, and this is primarily because I have a hearing impediment in my left ear. But like some people just prefer to mix in mono, and like some very great musicians, great bands have done that, even after stereo became commonplace. Okay, so the point that I'm getting at is, so technically, even though another example is the contact synth. This synthesizer is a stereo signal. It does have like some variations between the left and right going on. It's a stereo signal, but I'm not panning the whole thing left or right. So technically, I'm mixing in mono, and so when you're mixing in mono, especially, EQ is very important, and there's also another thing called phase issues that you also need to think about. We're not going to get into phase issues just yet. We're going to focus on EQ and levels. Now, these are kind of EQing is kind of a subset of leveling. Leveling is about having things at the right volume, and EQ is it's also volume. It's just volume that is specific to certain frequencies within a certain part. Okay, so enough of a prelude here. Now, the first thing that I noticed that I want to pay attention to before we get into EQ, the drums are not. You can barely hear the drums, so I suppose this is leveling, right? So for me, like EQ and leveling, they go together at the same time. I'm not going to first I'm going to do leveling, and then I'm going to do EQ. I'm just going to kind of like do it all together, hand in hand, this is kind of the way that I'm just going to do things the way that I would normally do them. All right. And if I'm not explaining something, don't worry about it. If you don't know exactly what's going on, just watch, and it'll coalesce and start to make sense over time. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is, as I said, I want this drum track to be. Let's listen just a few more seconds again. You can just barely make it out. So first I'm going to look at my level I've got. Now, once again, you see that the master volume is at 0.0. I never move this. It's just a general principle. Master volume stays at 0.0. All right? But over here, now 0.0 in digital audio is it's kind of a general principle. That's our ceiling. We don't want to go over 0.0. All right? Because then we get types of distortion. In analog world, you can go over. It's not technically 0.0 in analog, but in analog you get things like harmonic distortion and saturation, things that are pleasing to the ear and the brain. Not so in digital world, okay? It's actually a lot more nuanced than that, but just as a general rule, we don't go over 0.0, okay? I've got the drum track turned down to minus 3.9. That's too low. So I'm going to, in Cakewalk, when you double click a fader or another control, just double left click, it just goes back to 0, or it goes back to center. In the case of a pan knob, see how I pan that right? If I double click, it goes back to center. So now drums are at 0. I'm going to play back and just see how it sounds, and I'm going to see if the master volume meter clips or goes over 0. It doesn't. And now we can hear the drums a little better. It's okay. But eventually, as I add more parts, and I'm not going to add too many more parts. I'm going to keep this mix pretty sparse. I'm not going to have a lot of parts, a lot of tracks in this mix. But probably by the end, this is not going to be at 0.0 anymore. Okay? But I am going to insert a compressor. If you don't know what compressors do, there are some things that I'm just going to tell you, go look it up. Because my videos are too long as it is. And if I went explaining everything, it's just not going to work. If you don't know what compressors do, obviously I'm not talking about like nail gun compressors. I'm talking about in audio world compressors. It's just, you can go to YouTube and just type in, what are compressors? What does a compressor do? And yeah, there's no end to, or you could go to like a Brave browser, has an AI that gives you AI answers. It's really good. Just go to Brave browser and in audio, what is a compressor and what does it do? Okay, but the main thing is use your ears. Listen to what it does, and when you start to work with one, you can develop a good technical knowledge of how they work and what they do, and how to tweak them and all that. But at the end of the day, use your ears. Does this sound good? Okay, here's a compressor. This is the Tone Boosters compressor. Some people, it depends on the genre. It depends on your personal taste. It depends on what you're going for. I try not to overuse compression. Some people are really finicky about it. They don't like using it at all. I use compression. I use it heavily on vocals, bass, not as heavily on drums. Okay? You really can't overdo it. Now, if you're doing something like EDM, techno, like certain kinds of electronica, then you don't listen to me. Okay, but for the kind of music that I'm doing, it's a moderate use of compression is, I feel it's necessary and what's the word? Well, pleasant. Okay. So this is on the not even a preset. I just insert the compressor and I want to put it first in the chain. The order does matter. So second, I've got this this IDX. It's a type of dynamic EQ, I think, or it's kind of EQ and compression in one. It's not a super heavy compressor, although you could drive it, but just listen to what it does. Let's see, this one right here was, okay, a clipper. Don't worry about that right now. Just listen to, I'm going to solo, S to solo. I'm going to solo the drum kit part, and there's with IDX and without. Okay, so it's louder, it's fuller, it's and you can see what it's doing here. Okay. Now listen to what happens when I turn on the tone boosters compressor. And actually, let's watch that in this readout here. Look at the pink spikes above when I turn it on. Okay, they get a little longer. They stab a little bit lower down. That's the snare. So kick, snare, kick, snare, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare, snare. All right. Now, this is not supposed to be a video about compression, right? But I do feel the need to kind of get this drum more up front before we really get underway with this. So I have not chosen a preset, although I could choose like there's drum bus compressor, okay? And I might bring up the threshold a little bit. Just listen. Nico, you were telling me to bring up the threshold to about 20. I kind of like it. I like it down more like 30. And ratio. This is what my ears tell me. And I'm going to go ahead and unsolo it. You can really hear the snare. Now, I'm going to say you can hear the energy of the snare punching through that mix, okay? When you listen to it solo, like you can hear a lot more details, right? You can hear the decay. You hear the so in any audio event like the kick drum, the whole event is called the envelope or envelope. The initial beginning of the event where the felt mallet hits the kick drum, that point of impact where the audio wave begins is called the transient. And then there's what happens after that as it it develops and then eventually fizzles out is the decay. All right. So compressors basically allow you to they give you control over things like, so attack is how sharp and how sudden and how forceful the transient is. And decay is, do you want a long decay or do you want it to fizzle out more quickly, or do you want it to decay longer? These are all things that we control with like compression and transient shapers, things like that. But, so these details, that kick has a pretty long decay. The snare, not so much. But listen to it in the mix. You can't hear that decay as much, but that's all right. You can hear the kick decay just enough. Like I'm for now, I'm really happy with that. I'm not going to spend any more time on it, but I want to bring up the concept of like listening for energy. Okay, energy. As we go along, I'm going to talk more and more about energy. It's not just volume. Okay, it's energy. Energetics. All right, and as we get into talk using Air Windows plugins, which I use quite a bit, the idea of energy. Just put that in your back pocket for the time being. Okay, so that's enough on the drums for now. Like it's, you can hear them, and okay. So some general considerations. Normally, I'm a lyrics guy. I'm primarily a songwriter, a lyricist, and I like the words to be intelligible. I like them to be upfront. I want the listener to be able to understand the words. Normally, they're much more upfront in my mix, and I generally don't use a lot of reverb. But I'm thinking about. So this is production values that I'm talking about. What kind of song do I want to make? Right? Genre, style, just mood, atmosphere, feeling. And I'm thinking, one genre that I don't like all of it, but there's some of it that I do quite like. It's called shoegaze. Shoegaze is very spacious. There's a lot of reverb. There's a lot of especially like the guitar players and the bass player will use a lot of like effect pedals, and they use the effect pedals in really unorthodox ways. They'll do things like reverb pedals are supposed to go near the end of the chain of pedals, and they'll like do things like stick two reverb pedals in the front, like right after the compressor and before they'll put reverb before overdrive and distortion, and they just like throwing the rules out the window, and what they're going after is kind of like a very spacious, very dreamlike, very ethereal mood. And I'm thinking it kind of suits this song, these lyrics. And I'm kind of thinking about not going full shoegaze on this, because in shoegaze, one of the hallmarks of the genre of shoegaze is that the vocals are like really buried. You can't make out the words. The singer is just the vocals are just another kind of instrument, just an ambient instrument, and the words aren't important. So I'm not going to go to that extent, but I'm thinking about actually using a very heavy reverb on the voice, on the vocal, and I'm thinking about doing kind of a shoegazy number on this song. So the leveling decisions that I'm going to make in this session are actually not typical of what I normally do. Okay, but I'll probably do another series like this with another song. All right. Well, no point belaboring that. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of dive into. Let me see. Where should I begin? Well, let's talk about. In terms of leveling, let's talk about. Okay, this is a complicated subject, all right? You've heard of decibels. Decibels, that's a unit of measure for loudness. But there are like lots of different kinds of decibels. And there are lots of different ways to measure loudness. Okay? I mean, you can measure loudness by like voltage. This is a very mathematical measure of loudness. Just pure energy. But there's also like ways to measure it that are psychoacoustic. So loudness, more of like subjective loudness, how human beings tend to perceive volume level and loudness. And if you're going to take it kind of beyond just something that stays in your bedroom, and you get to the point where you want to upload your work to YouTube or even like Apple or Spotify, you want to put it out into the public sphere for other people to listen to. One thing that you're going to have to think about is loudness, because there are standards nowadays, and the standards vary. I think YouTube is one standard, and Spotify is another standard. And there are different standards in Europe and North America. It's really complicated, right? But just to kind of keep it simple, I have found a standard that I actually quite like. And even though I'm not currently uploading anything to Spotify, I am working on an album, but I'm not uploading to Spotify yet. But I'm using Spotify's standard because I personally like it. And so I've just adopted it. And so I'm going to show you what that standard is right now. And it's kind of a good place to start before we go about leveling and EQing. So I'm going to load here. This is my master bus effects rack. Last time I put in a bus compressor, tweaked it a little bit. I put in this thing, which is, it's basically, call it a saturator. All right. It's a tape saturation emulator. It's just a default setting. All the knobs turned off. I'm not going to explain what it does right now. I'll maybe go into that more later on. This thing is a tape machine emulator. That's not to be worried about right now. Just if you watched the last video to the end, you just heard what it does. Okay. Now, into the same effects rack, I'm going to load this thing called the Ulean Loudness Meter 2. VST3. There's VST2, VST3. If you have a choice, most cases, you choose VST3. And it looks like this. So, like everything, there's always nuance, and everything's complicated in this world, okay? And so it helps to kind of like, where possible, just keep things as simple as you can. What I'm going after with this meter is, you see this part here, it says integrated, okay? All these other readings that you're going to see, they have meanings and applications and reasons to pay attention to them. But right now we're focused on this one right here, integrated. And what I want is, I want this number not to exceed minus 14, okay? Maybe a little, it can go up to like 13.9, 13.8. That's louder than minus 14. But and as a general rule, I want it to go no louder than minus 14. That's the Spotify standard. And so I just want to check right now. And because this song is not very dynamic right now, meaning that it's pretty much the same volume all the way through at this point. It's not starting out quiet and then gradually getting louder. It's not going loud, soft, loud, soft. So this is really easy right now. Like normally to get the integrated reading, you have to let it play through the whole song. It's kind of an averaged loudness as the human ear perceives loudness. That's what this is about. But I'm just going to do a quick reading and see what our integrated, this is called LUFS, L-U-F-S. See that word right there, LUFS? This is called integrated LUFS. I'm just going to see where we're sitting right now, especially since I tweaked that drum track and got it a bit louder and more forceful. So let's go. And right away, we're at minus 14. This is short-term LUFS. It's dipping kind of above 14. And when the voice comes in, it's not going to like make it. All right, so basically we're sitting around 14.1. And that's too loud. Because, why? Because I plan to be adding a bass part. I plan to be adding like another percussion part. Okay? A percussion that kind of sits behind the drum kit, behind and around the drum kit. I'll be adding probably a Hammond organ part, or maybe a church organ. Okay? The point is, I'll be adding other parts. I'll be building the arrangement. And as I do that, it's going to increase the overall volume of the mix as a whole. And so what I want to do now in this preliminary leveling and EQing is that I want to make room for that. Okay? And, well, one way to, you hear the term headroom. Technically, headroom is like, I just did a playback here, and you see on this master bus volume meter, it says minus 0.8. Technically speaking, I've got 0.8 decibels of headroom before I reach my ceiling of 0.0. Okay, but in the looser sense, when I say I want to create more headroom, I don't want to be hitting this ceiling already. So on this meter, on this LUFS meter, minus 14 integrated is my ceiling. And so already my head is bumping up on the ceiling. So I want to not raise the ceiling, but kind of like bring the mix down, right? So there's some space. I've got some space to grow into with the new parts that I'm adding. And so we call that kind of creating headroom. Okay? And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to turn things down. And that's leveling. Okay? So might as well just start with that. Okay? And so to start with that, I'm going to go, this is called track view because I can see my tracks right there. Right? I can see the waveforms of the vocal and the guitar. I can see these piano roll blips for the virtual instruments. Now I'm going to go into something called console view. Console view. And this is where I want to do my leveling. Just is more convenient to do it in console view. The reason for that is in this track view, if I want to adjust the level, I've got to go over here to the left-hand side, to this left pane over here. And if I want to adjust the level for track 1, I've got to click on track 1, adjust. And then if I want to adjust track 2, I've got to click on track 2. And now that changed over here to track 2, and I adjust it there. Click, adjust, click, adjust. It's not convenient. So console view is more convenient for leveling. and for a few other things as well. So to get to console view, you can see down here I've got this little tab that says console. That's kind of the shortcut. But I also want to show you the long way as well. And that is to go to the Views menu and choose Console View. And there's Console View. Now, down here, if I want to go back into Track View, I can go to Views and I can click on Track View, and I'm back. But the shortcut for that, here are the shortcuts. I can click down here on this tab, Console. And then if I want to go back to Track View, I go all the way over here to the lower right-hand corner, and this little double triangle thing where it says Collapse, I'm back in Track View. So Console View, Track View. So I'm in Console View, and as you can see now, I've got all the, here's Track 1, Track 2, Track 3, Track 4, side by side, with the solo buttons, the mute buttons, the pan knobs, the volume faders, everything right there. So you can see why this is more convenient for leveling, for a start. And the only thing I have turned down below 0.0 is the big 905 is the electric guitar part. Okay? So what I'm going to do is okay, I'm going to bring back my loudness meter here. I'm just going to hit playback, and I'm going to start just playing with these levels, just sliding them up and down and watching this meter. I'd like to get this down to around, let's say, minus 15, minus 15.3, something like that. And as I bring these levels down, and at the same time, I'm kind of listening for a pleasing balance of the different elements. I can hear, and this is really about taste. This is about taste. There's nothing technically right or wrong about this balance. It's about genre. It's about personal taste. It's all about your personal goals, really. Now, when we get into EQing, it's a little more than just personal goals, because there are really bad EQ decisions that you can make that are really not, like, objectively not advisable. And we'll talk about that more later. Okay? But anyway, I'm just going to start playing back through the song and just watch what I'm doing and use your ears, use your eyes, use your ears, and you'll get it. I don't have to explain it any more than I already have, really. Okay? So with that said, I'm going to begin. Okay, so already we're down at 14, 15. Already. Didn't take long, did it? Now, okay, so 15.2. That's a good start. Now, I'm probably going to bring that electric guitar down even more. Now, one thing I'm listening for is this. That's the kind of thing. That's what I call an element in the mix. It's an element. It's a part of what that synth track is doing. That synth track is doing, it's got two main distinct elements. And those are let's say the attack of the note, which is going bow, 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 right? And then after that decays, there's that pulse. Da, 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 da. Now, as I continue adding tracks and releveling and mixing, I don't want that pulse to disappear. I want it to always kind of be there. At the same time, I don't want it to be too prominent, because over the course of the song, that could get annoying. Okay? Like if it's too loud, that's going to be annoying. It's almost like I want it to be perceptible. Like if you want to like tune into it and hear it, you can. But if you're not particularly focused on it, you're not necessarily consciously hearing it all the time, but it's sort of like more felt than heard, if that makes any sense. Now, EQ is also going to have to do, this is all like, it's like, again, it's not like leveling and EQ are two entirely separate and distinct things. They're kind of two sides of the same coin. Okay? But I'm going to call your attention to little things like this as they occur to me. Now, but right now, I think that that pulse is more or less in the right place where I want it to be for now. Okay? Maybe a little bit loud, but it's okay. There.
Don't lift one finger from that little yellow page.
Notice how the vocal is more prominent now. But this is more the level I'm thinking of for this mix. I'm finding that to be right about where I want it. Okay, so far so good. As for preliminary leveling, this is more or less where I want it, both in terms of the meter. It's right around minus 15.1, just like I said I wanted. And like in terms of balance, that's pretty much where I want things for right now. Now, as I add parts, this is all going to change. So, constantly re-leveling, and in some cases re-EQing as we add parts, and this is a thing that it evolves. And you're kind of like, they're different skills, but it's all like, these things aren't discrete and separate from each other. This is one problem that I have with a lot of the like tutorial videos that you see on YouTube, and yeah, they seems great because it's like video is like what, 8 or 10 or 12 minutes long, and it seems like oh you're saving time and you're getting the short and skinny, but in a way you're not, because those short tutorials, they don't give you the full context. It's not this is holistic. Everything affects everything else. And right? So even though this is not winning me, doing things this way is not winning me any new subscribers, certainly not attracting new watchers or listeners, but this is just the way I believe in doing things. This is the way I prefer to learn. So this is the way algorithm be damned. I'm not going to get on a rant about that. It's terrible. YouTube is just terrible. YouTube does not care about people. Not really. Okay, I'm not getting off on tangents like that. Focus. All right. Okay, so far so good. Now let's get into EQ. All right? And for that, I'm going to, for just a minute, I'm going to talk about the signal path. Each one of these tracks has a signal path. It has a point where it enters the digital audio workstation, a point where it exits the digital audio workstation, which is, in this case, cakewalk. Here is the point of input, this gain knob, input gain. That's at 0.0. Normally, we don't touch this. Just normally we don't touch this. This touches on something called gain staging. I don't want you to worry about that too much right now. If anything, I want you to use your ears and common sense rather than talking about a bunch of technical stuff. I'm not too good with technical stuff myself. Your ears and your common sense will take you a long, long way. All right? And just rules of thumb. Rule of thumb, don't touch the gain input knob. If you ever have a reason to adjust this knob, you'll know you have a reason to do it, and you'll know why. Just leave it at that. Then it passes into... All right, well, let's look at what you can see. All right? So it passes into this thing here called the channel strip. The channel strip. It passes through the effects rack, okay? And then it might take a detour over here to the side into something that's called a sub mix bus. All right? We're not going to do that right now. We're not going to talk about it. Just point being, it can pass through the channel effect strip. It can take a detour through another stage, and then it comes out through the master bus, where it's everything, where they're all mixed together, and then to final output. But between the input gain, this is the gateway to the DAW, the digital audio workstation. Between there and here, it passes through something called the Pro Channel. The Pro Channel, you don't see that right now because it's kind of like it's under the hood, so to speak, okay? But it's another stage in the signal path that it passes through. You can leave it untouched, in which case nothing happens to the signal. It just passes through untouched, or you can make use of it. I choose to make use of it because I think it's very useful. And it's an invariable part of my workflow. So now I'm going to show you what that is and how to look at it. Okay, so here I have track 1, the drum track selected. I click on it, it's selected. Over here you can see it's selected. Now to see the Pro Channel, I'm going to go up here, right there, this button. It says Show or Hide Pro Channel. I'm going to click on it, and this is my Pro Channel for track 1. So this is the first thing that the signal passes through after it passes the gateway right here, the input gain. It goes here through the Pro Channel. The Pro Channel is customizable. It has different stages. This is kind of the default state, the default template of stages. You can customize this. I'm not going to go into that right now. We're going to take what we got at default and just kind of like learn what that is, and just starting out. This is what you can start out doing when you're just beginning, okay? And I'm going to use, except for EQ, well, all right, I'm going to use presets. And so I'm going to start with console. Don't worry about what this means right now. This is just the console stage. Let's call it the console stage. and it makes a very subtle difference to the sound. All right. And if you want to learn more about what these individual things mean, you can just, you can pause the video and go ask the AI or go ask YouTube or whatever. What is the console in Cakewalk Pro Channel? Okay. I'm going to click this button right here, and I'm going to get some presets. Right? Now, this is a drum track. Where does it say anything about drums? Say anything about drums here? Drums, warm. Okay, good enough. All right? I'm not saying we're going to go with this at the end of the day. I'm gearing this towards people who are just getting into this. I'm trying to keep things simple so you can find your way around. Tube. Not always advisable to use this stage. Again, you got to use your ears. And by the way, this is how you A/B it. See, enable. Okay, enable. It's lit up now. Now this stage is enabled. Now it's disabled. So you can A/B. You can play back and you can click it on and off. You can A/B it. Use your ears. Use your brain. So, tube presets. Drum bus, warm. Drum bus, warm, slammed. Well, I'm not a slammed kind of guy. All right? There's maybe a time and a place for that, but I'm not going for anything extreme. I'm just going to hit drum bus warm. Now up to EQ. Yeah, the presets are not enough. Here's how we really have to kind of do things by hand, okay? But there are presets that can be useful sometimes. As you can see here, there are quite a few drum presets. Drum bus 1, drum bus 2, crisper drums, house music drums, and blah, blah, blah. Just for now, I click that. You can see now there's an EQ curve. From left to right, these are bass frequencies. Here, let me double click it so you can see it bigger. 20 hertz, 50 hertz, 100 hertz, 200. These are bass frequencies. Up here from like 500, 1,000 on up to like 10,000. These are mid-range. Well, 7,000 or 8,000 mid-range. Above that, it's like trebles. Left to right, okay? So you can see that there's a boost here around 40 hertz. Well, you see it's a bell curve, right? But the top of the bell curve is around, 40, 45 hertz. And then another boost up here in the high mid-range trebles, okay? Kind of like reaching the top of the curve around 6,000 hertz. And so this is going to emphasize the kick, and it's going to emphasize the hi-hats and the cymbals, maybe, and some of the snare. I can choose another, let me see, drum bus 02. Now, this is rolling off. See, this is 0. The line in the middle is 0. That's 0 decibels. Go out north of that line, it's increasing the volume of those frequencies. Below, it's decreasing the volume of those frequencies. Anything below like 50 to 80 hertz, for the most part, we want to attenuate that. We don't want too much energy down here in 0 to 80 hertz because this is kind of sub-bass rumble. It's going to make your mix sound muddy. It's going to be problematic on big speakers. Okay. And for the most part, so this is why these EQ presets, a lot of them, if you're just, they don't do enough, they're just not good enough. They don't do enough cutting of sub-bass, rolling off sub-bass. Again, this is going to this is going to reinforce the kick at a slightly higher frequency. Rather than a shelf up here, we have more of a bell curve, and that is the center of emphasis is around 5,000 hertz. Let's look at a third one let's look at house music drums. Okay. Now there's a boost around 50 hertz. And then it's attenuating the mid-range, the low mid-range. Okay. And then a little bit of a shelf up in the upper mid-range to trebles. Look, let's just hear these. Let's just listen to the drum track soloed. And so for solo, I'm going to click keep things in. I can't move this EQ UI. I'm going to have to minimize it. How do I do that? Okay. Double click right here for that. All right, so solo, and let's just listen to what this EQ does to the drums. And you can see the frequencies, the energies of the frequencies bouncing down here, right? Now, see the curve. Now this, there's not a whole lot of mid-range here to begin with, so why cut the mid-range? Right? This doesn't make a whole lot of sense visually. Here's drum bus 1. Okay, first just hear the difference. Listen to the kick. 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 Now listen to the kick. You hear how the kick sounds different? Now listen again. Kick deeper. Now, as I said just a moment ago, where this is boosted right here, that's like between, okay, so the boost starts around, well, down to 0. I mean, down to 20 hertz. Okay. The ideal range of human hearing, certainly not for adults. Okay. But for children who have really good hearing, it'd be something like 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Okay. If you're an adult, especially middle-aged one, you're not hearing the full frequency, okay? And so for most instruments, for everything but the kick drum and the bass guitar, you want to declutter this frequency range between everything from 80 hertz down. From 80 hertz down to 20 hertz, you just want to roll that off. And that is to make space for the kick and the bass. Okay? And even then, when you've got like the kick drum and the bass both occupying that frequency band of 20 to 80 hertz, you even have to deal with those two competing and issues getting them to work to occupy that space in that place in the frequency band nicely together. Okay? So as much as possible, we want to declutter that space. So I don't have any problem right now with having that boost in that 20 to 80 hertz range. All right? And so at this point, for the drum EQ, I'm just gonna like listen to my ears. I'm gonna listen to it back in the mix. I'm gonna click the S solo button, unsolo it now, and I'm just gonna like click through some of these presets in the mix. So let's use our ears and see what sounds good. So listen to the kick, listen to the snare, listen to the hi-hats, listen to everything. Whoops. What's going on? Hang on. I got something squirrely happening here. Hang on, let me pause and figure out what's going on. I must have hit a button that I didn't mean to. All right, I'm back. Okay. All right. Ugh. All right. Let's try again. Playback, I'm just going to cycle through some presets and choose one that I like. I like the sound of the snare on this one. Kick is too woofy on that. Okay, I'm really liking this preset right now. I really like the way the snare sounds with it. It's a place to start. I am going to double click on it and I think that's fine for now. I like the way it sounds, so I'm going to leave it there for now. But you know, I may come back later on and tweak it. I may change my mind about it, but for right now, that's okay. Now here's the compressor stage. I've got compressors going on over here at this stage of the signal path. In general, I don't like the Pro Channel compressor. There are exceptions, but let's just give it a try, okay? Here is drums kick, drums overhead, drum snare, drum bus warm. I would choose that. And let's just A-B it, again, with this button right here. And just, you know, let's see. So now it's enabled. So watch me. I'll be clicking this button on and off here. It's on now, so... Right now, it's making the snare and the hi-hat pop a little bit more. Yeah, okay. I'm going to leave it on for the time being. It's certainly not making anything worse. But again, this is all subject to change. Okay, this is all preliminary. So, moving on to the contact synth. Now, a synth is a really a full range instrument. It's okay. A synth is generally, this is my opinion, okay, but the way my favorite approach to EQing synths is I'm minimal in my approach to EQing synths, especially in the beginning. This is all I'm going to do. I'm not going to use a preset. I'm just going to roll off. I'm going to do a roll off in the bass from 80 down to 20. Okay? And everything above that, I'm just going to leave as it is. And then later on, depending on the other elements, the other parts, I may decide that there's a part of the frequency range, there's a band that I want to dial down a little bit, or another one that I want to emphasize a little bit. Okay? But just for the time being, as a preliminary EQ setting, I'm just going to take down, I'm going to roll off the energy in the sub bass. And that's what this looks like. So I'm going to take this note, and if I drag it, okay, well, I want to roll it off so that I don't want this bell curve thing here. So that's what this switch right here is for, okay? I'm going to do what's called a high pass filter. I click that, and now you can see, well, okay, well, it's different, right? It's kind of like sharply rolling it off. There's a spike here, and it's coming back up here. So what's that all about? Well, I'm going to go to this knob Q right here. Now, here's what Q does. In terms of like this bell curve thing, if I adjust it, it's going to make that kind of like broader or narrower. Okay? Like that. That's what Q does. Frequency just moves it back and forth, right? Okay. Now I want this around 80. That's around 80 right there. Okay. 80. But I want a shelf, or this is called a low pass, or I mean a high pass, because it's giving a pass to the higher frequencies and rolling off the lows. Okay. And conversely, a low pass, if I want to roll off the highs and let the lower frequencies pass, that's called a low pass. Now, to get this looks really squirrely and weird right now. I just want to tweak the Q knob until I get something that looks like that. Okay? And I'm going to adjust it this way until this roll off starts happening around 80 and then rolling off at that point. And again, this is all, this is all to taste. It's all adjustable. I'm just going to leave it right there. Just beginning the roll off around 100. Just giving that kick plenty of space so it's not competing with this synth. All right? And that's enough for now. So let's A-B this. That's off. That's on. Let me just, I want to bypass the guitar. Maybe you're not going to hear a huge difference here, but this does, decluttering the sub bass does add up over time. The subtractions sort of add up in a funny, and they accumulate, okay? It does make a difference, even if you can't hear a huge difference right now. Let me just mute the guitar track. The M is mute, so we're just going to hear these two for now, okay? And let's see if we can hear a difference. I'm going to make it a bit more extreme. Now you can really hear a difference, right? Now you can really hear a difference there, eh? Maybe too much. But I can see right here, I can see that there's a lot of sub-bass energy that I am taking out. It's just because it's sub-bass, because it's down in that frequency, and you're presumably an adult, probably, if you're listening to this, you're probably getting long in the tooth. You're not so readily hearing those frequencies, but this does make a difference. Okay, it really does. Especially, when you start listening to it through like big speakers, different systems. This is something we just want to do out of principle. All right. Okay, so enough of that. We're going to move on to the guitar track. This one might be a little bit more interesting. As I said, the electric guitar is more of a mid-range instrument. Oh, by the way, let's go through console, and you can see there's a synth warm lead part. Just for now, let's select that. Tube. Is there a synth preset? There's no synth preset. So let's just bypass the tube stage for now. And there's really no need there's no need to do compression with the synth part. That's enough for now. Let's go on to, and you notice that once I click the show pro channel, hide pro channel. Once I click show pro channel, as I cycle between these channel strips, okay, you can see the pro channel for each one of them respectively. Also, if I scroll up here, you can see the EQ graphs that we're doing up here. Okay, so here's the guitar and console. Let's just say what we got here: guitar, electric clean lead, electric rhythm. I don't know. Let's just choose electric rhythm. And tube, electric clean lead, electric dirt bag, electric rhythm. Let's just choose electric rhythm. All right. And in this case, we will A-B the tube stage. I don't want that doing anything unpleasant. And EQ, definitely we're going to declutter the sub bass. And we're probably I'm going to roll off the lows, and I'm going to roll off the trebles. Just do a general mid-range focus. I'm going to do a high pass and a low pass. So here's my high pass down here. Again, I want to click this right there to get that shelf thing. And again, it's going to have this weird shape. I'm going to adjust Q to get that shape right, that S shape right there. And let's say I'm going to roll it off right around between 100 and 200. And I'm going to go over here to this node right here. And same, I'm going to click this one right here. You see this is high. That's low, mid, high. I'm going to click that. Switch right there to get that shape. And once again, adjust the Q, just like that. And we set it right around there, about as far to the right as I can get it. And so let's hear it and A-B and see if we can hear a diff. Well, you can see visually that there's really nothing going on with this guitar part up here anyway, right? So, look, I'm going to drag this to the left here. You're the diff, right? Now, I like these frequencies right here. they're kind of bright in a pleasing way. I don't want to take those out. I like them right there. Now let's do this. Let's drag this over here. Hear that? This is called finding the sweet spot. Drag it back and forth until you find the sweet spot, what you like. There are some general principles. What I'm doing is I'm making space, finding a space for that guitar part, and it's a balance, right? I could also do this. I could have some sub bass coming in that guitar part, right? Listen, I can do anything I want, right? Okay. I really like those right there. I'm arpeggiating some notes in the chords. I want those notes to poke out. Okay, right now, the sweet spot for me is about right here. I really like that. It's a little bit steep of a boost, but I like that. My friend Nenko might not agree, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to back off on the volume. Like that. Okay. Bypass. Okay. You hear the difference there? All right. I'm pretty happy with that for the time being. Let's hang on. I want to A-B the tube stage here. Okay, it's not doing any harm that I can hear. If anything, it's adding a little bit of presence, probably in the low-mid range. Yeah, I'm going to leave that there. Let's go on to our vocal. And now this one is also really, really important, and we should hear a very marked difference here. So I'm going to click here just right where before the vocal comes in. And okay, so as you can see, all right, so starting again with console. Vocals lead smooth, why not? And tube, vocals smooth. Okay. Now here, we've got some vocal presets. The only one I ever really use is, which one is it? Vocals Okay, sometimes I'll use this one, but I will tweak it. This is called Vocals Lead 01 Smooth. Okay. I also use this one I think I'm going to use this one this time. There's more of a cut in the bass frequencies. I will not stick with this preset. I will tweak it. But now let's just hear this preset. And let's see. Vocals lead smooth on compressor. Okay. So let's just let's A/B the EQ now. Hear that? It has more clarity. Off. Now listen to on again. Can you hear the jump in clarity? Okay, so it has more of a place, more of a defined place in the mix. Okay, but now I have scooped out some energy from the bass frequencies that don't need to be there. But this means that I can compensate by bringing the vocal up in volume a little bit. I don't need to, but I can. And we're going to see after we finish leveling and EQing, we're going to go back to our LUFS integrated meter and see where we're sitting. Are we still at minus 15.1? Where are we, right? We should see a cumulative drop. All right. But anyway, I'm just going to tweak this. And let me see. Q. Want to do that and that. And also, so something more like, yeah, something more like that right there. And this right here is not bad, but up here, I really don't need to be boosting these. Basically, anything from 10, 12,000 up to 20 is what we call air. And especially, I'm not using like a super, this mic is really nice. I like it. It sounds good, but it is not like a high-end microphone. And yeah, for that and for several other reasons I'm not going to get into right now, I can just go ahead and roll off these trebles. I'm going to, again, adjust the Q a little bit. Nothing too drastic, but I can kind of like roll off those trebles, let's say down to minus 12 here. Okay. With a little bit of a boost around 4,000 or 5,000. That's fine. What I'm going to do here is, start the vocals again. I'm going to sweep this back and forth, this one right here. And just sweeping during playback, you sweep things around and, again, finding a sweet spot, right? Until you kind of get a better sense of where things should be visually, right? I'm liking 5,000, right around there. Kind of a similar curve to the guitar, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just kind of going with my ears right now. And again, this is not optimal. You know, I'm using cheap headphones. I'm not doing this through monitor speakers. This is all preliminary, but that's okay for now. I am going to bring the vocal back up to, let's say, 2.5. Yeah, see how the vocal and the guitar are pretty similar. I'm standing by that. Okay, let's check our... Okay, so that's the Pro channel. That's basic EQing and leveling. Let's go back and check our LUFS reading. Minus 15. So, what, 1/10 of a point louder. But it makes sense because I brought the vocals up and one other track. Did I bring the contact? I forget. Anyway, minus 15. That's fine. That's fine. That's enough headroom to think about adding. Okay, back to 15.1. That's enough to, you know, it gives me some space to add another track. Now I'm in a good position to add the bass, track. And sure enough, over an hour and a half again. I just can't seem to get these any shorter. No matter how I try. But it is what it is. I don't think I wasted any time. I think everything that I've done here is informative and useful, and it's designed to save time in the long run and help you get running on your own. So that's it. I guess before I go, I will that's it for now. Okay? I'm not even going to play it back all the way through again. I'll start out the next video that way. So, anything else? Well, before I close out, I'm going to load this thing called a Spectrum Analyzer, Voxengo Span, just so you can see what that looks like. I'll be talking about this next time as an addendum to EQing. And this is looking pretty good. Why this is looking pretty good, I'll explain more next time. We've got a couple of issues where you see like a little bit salmon pink poking out here. These are issues, but nothing major, nothing big. Overall, this is looking pretty good. And I will be talking more about the spectrum analyzer. Yep. I'll be talking more about this next time. This is a part of EQing and leveling and all that. This is another visual reference tool. So I'm not going to touch this again until next video, where we're going to add a bass guitar track, and no doubt that's going to go on at least an hour and a half too, because there's a lot involved in that. There's a lot to be said about it. So, okay, enough of my yapping from lovely scenic Paju City, South Korea. I am Lean Bear, here to help if I possibly can. Get in touch, and God bless and be well. Over and out.